In our Sabbath series, we begin to introduce the idea that perhaps Paul has not been represented accurately in theology today. He certainly kept the Sabbath, the feasts, and the law, which we see many times, yet then we find these fragments thrown up at us time and time again from some who just quote one fragment after another. One must wonder, are they in context? Or is something else going on here? All of us here at the God Culture came from the Christian megachurch especially, backgrounds, and man, have we heard and even taught Paul in such fragments. We're taught to even memorize Paul's fragments, teach him in fragments, take one fragment, put it with another, and you got fragment and fragment and fragment. It's all out of context. Oh yeah, what about Colossians 2, Romans 14, Romans 8, Galatians, Ephesians? I mean, that's what people are just throwing that up time and time again. We're getting emails from usually the trolls that haven't even watched a single video in the Sabbath series. But because we use the word Sabbath, we're showing up on their radar, and we've gotten tons of those. Some, where we'll have just one person who just sends email after email after email after email. We've had several who've done that, and they just keep going on and on, beating a drum. It's funny because it really reeks of programming behavior. This is programmed behavior for someone to do that. The funny thing is most of these who do this, again, haven't even watched our videos. So for them, though they are not listening anyway, how about they actually watch a video before commenting? Imagine that. For me personally, I can't imagine commenting on a video that I had never even watched even a minute of. It amazes me that people do that all the time. Oh, we see that. Even, a blogger here or there, or we'll get, this hit, that hit, email, whatever. It's funny because they'll condemn based on saying what they think, assuming what they think we prove or don't prove. Oh, you don't prove that. Well, did you watch? Well, no, but I know you didn't prove that. Really? Oh, that sounds really bright. I mean, and they wonder why we call them, as Forrest Gump would, stupid, because stupid is as stupid does. That's what Forrest Gump said. So if they act that way, we have no problem calling them what they are. So one particular one watched the Lost Tribes recap video, and he just knew from that what we don't prove in Solomon's Gold series, another series. Okay, Lost Tribes is like 25 plus videos. Solomon's Gold series is over 70 videos, and you didn't watch any of those. You watched a recap, a 7-minute recap of the Lost Tribes, and know whether we prove that the Philippines is Ophir or not. Wow. Now, that takes either one of the most brilliant people of all time, and it would have to be of all time, or the very dumbest. It's one or the other. There's nothing in between. So, Einstein said it best. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance. And it's the same with this topic on Paul. So many comment on this fragment, that fragment. So many comment even in frustration because the fragments don't seem to add up. Well, that's because they don't, because you're reading them in fragments. Don't do that. That's the problem. But regardless of all of that, we are right where we want to be. We started this journey with Ophir. And as we started that journey, we started with just proving the Philippines is Ophir. That led us to Sheba and Tarshish. We found those as well because they all equate. We found that then led us to the Garden of Eden. Did we expect that? No. Were we setting out to prove that? Not at all. We found that then is the land of creation, the land of Adam and Eve. All of this leads us to the rivers from Eden en route. So we've been following that same progression. Some people say, well, how come you're over here, you're over there, you're over here? And not many say that, by the way, very few. Most, I think, get it. We then went to our original canon series. And as we did, what were we doing? Well, we had used Jubilees to locate the Garden of Eden, and we had found some incredible gems in there. And as we tested it parallel with Genesis and Exodus, which it parallels both to some degree, we found it vets very well, extremely well. I mean, the only thing that someone could say against it is, it has information that you don't find in Genesis. Well, if it was Genesis, then wouldn't it just be called Genesis? Why would it need a different title and a different name? It is the book of division. So we test that, and we test also the Qumran community, and we find that John the Baptist lived there. But see, all of that journey began finding Ophir. We continue as we saw that prophecy leads us to what Ophir will be in the last days, and we believe this is already happening. Ophir will rise against the beast, against Gog of Magog. That's pretty serious, guys. That's a huge prophecy, and it's right there several times. The isles of the east will restore his law. Wow. Now, why are we teaching on the Sabbath, the feasts, and now Paul in the same vein? Because we're still on the same topic. Yes, they're different series, but we're still on the same topic, and we have been all along. Many people just don't realize it. This is the continuation of really the fulfillment of prophecy. You are the fulfillment of prophecy when you restore his law in your life. Now, sit down with a JW, for instance, and they will spout off scripture like a machine gun. Talk to an INC person long enough, and you will learn all about how great this guy Manalo claims to be. Oh yeah, you will. Of course, he's stealing the very prophecies that I'm talking about, because he claims he's the fulfillment of all of the prophecies, usurping the prophecies of an entire nation. Now, that takes brass indeed. Or Kibaloi, who goes even further. No, he doesn't just claim to be a prophet, but the very son of Yahuwah. Can you imagine how deceived one has to be to accept that? Yet, he claims millions of viewers, and perhaps he does. However, no false Messiah is more brazen than the office of Pope, who claims to be infallible, taking the seat of Messiah on earth. Yeah, that's what he's doing. If you really look at what his claim is, it's right there in the claim, the doctrine of infallibility. It's right there. Complete blasphemy. If the Pope does something that disagrees with Yahuwah, well, then his doctrine says Yahuwah is wrong and the Pope is right. Yep, that's what it's saying if you read it. In other words, he espouses the very doctrine of Satan. Billions are deceived by this in a false religion such as Islam, who places the moon god Hubal, one of hundreds of deities in their original faith, that Muhammad chose that one, above all other gods. Yet, he is not Yahuwah in any sense. And Muhammad, you have got to be kidding me. He is no Messiah. He's a warlord, called a prophet above Yahusha in that religion, yet he's just a murderous thug. You gotta be kidding. Then there are false religions that lead to the doctrine of Satan from the garden, in which man is supposed to be able to elevate to the level of godhood. Oh, that's in the church today too. They call it the name it, claim it gospel for one. In fact, one of those is called atheism. Huh? Well, they don't even realize that in declaring there is no God, they're actually elevating themselves to godhood status. Or maybe many do realize. Who knows? It's a mess out there, folks. We know it. You know it. We all know it. But just as profound of a mess is many doctrines we are taught today, even in most Protestant churches, which are principally based on Paul. Paul's doctrine of fragments out of context. How does the Egyptian Book of the Dead, for instance, end up in the pulpit? Oh, but it does. And we will cover that in our new Doctrines of Men Resolved series coming very soon. How does the occult Kebra Nagast, which we covered in Solomon's Gold series, end up as church doctrine with the Queen of Sheba from supposedly Ethiopia, the wrong Sheba, who has the leg and hoof of a goat? That's bad. How does the infusion from Samaria, where they attempted to infuse the Persian religion called Zoroastrianism, Mazdaism, Mithraism, it has several names, it always has. They like to confuse you, but it's the same. How do they end up in the church today? Because they are. Well, it became Catholicism, for one, because it is based on that Persian religion and its infusion in Samaria. It is a Pharisee religion, another infusion by a new name, but all the same, really. Phariseeism is Judaism today. Now that is the foundation of the Protestant Church, which is a Reformation movement of or from the Catholic Church. See, we do not agree with Martin Luther. You don't take a bad pagan foundation and rehab it. You tear it down completely and start over. That never happened. So there are doctrines within even the Protestant Church which have roots in paganism as well. The greatest of all, however, is the manner in which the modern church, both Catholic and Protestant, remains set on a foundation of Paul's teachings, really exclusively, as even when they read other portions of the Bible, they do so through the lens of what they say Paul meant and did and said. It's time to clarify this. The question is, are they even right about Paul in the first place? Do you even read 2/3 of the New Testament? This guy wrote a lot. He's very easy to take out of context because there's so many words. Do you do that in fragments? Or do you read him in context and understand completely what he meant? Was Paul a lawless zealot who forged, really, by definition of the modern church, a new religion? Because that's what it is. It's not the Bible religion. It doesn't fit. It doesn't match the words of Messiah. We've proven that in our Sabbath series and other places. He would have to be to fit the church's description of Paul. And that's just fact. However, what did Paul say? Does he agree with them? Shouldn't that matter most? His actual words. We should read the Bible, test it, know it for ourselves, prove all things, hold fast that which is good. We are told Paul abolished the law, yet Messiah did not. And Paul was a disciple who kept the Sabbath, the feast, and the law. So what gives? Something just seems off with this whole thing. If this doesn't bother you, it certainly bothers us. And likely you're not going to watch this series if it doesn't, and that's okay. You don't have to. But then, some who realize the disparity between what we are told by the church, the modern church generally, is the way to read Paul in comparison with the rest of Scripture. These folks, they see something's wrong, and their approach is to step back and say, wait a minute. If Paul said that, he is a hypocrite. And he changed the word, especially that of Messiah, so they go off into a movement of sort, to abolish Paul. So the two extremes, do we abolish Paul or abolish the law? Right? That's actually a little catchy. Which is it? Well, there is another thought here that is not being considered in those two polarizing, polar opposite arguments. And whenever we see this, we see a false paradigm on both sides. Why would I say that? We're going to read Paul and see for ourselves. See, Peter warned that Paul was being taken out of context 2,000 years ago. Imagine that. all the many times we are warned about Pharisee leaven, even by Messiah, multiple times, and by Paul, by the way, we then forget that has ever happened, and who did it, and we've lost track of them. Well, we haven't on this channel. Watch Psalm 83 War and Gog of Magog, and that will restore that understanding for sure. Those are revolutionary, and you will love those videos. So, what do we do with all this? They created one buzzword after another to test you against and call you names like anti-this or pro-that. You're whatever buzzword, right? Come on. That's everywhere. We all know it. We all see it. That's the society we live in today. And it's evil. And in fact, both sides end up many times having the same origin of evil. Tell the truth about history and you're called a racist. Restore a history of one people and guess what? You are crushing a claim of another. Howbeit, however false that claim may be, and ultimately they should be the ones rebuked. But no! Rather than face the music, society would rather label you a racist bigot or whatever. Evil is good, good is evil. We were warned about this, and we are there. However, Peter endorses Paul. So was Peter also deceived? James took issue with some things Paul said, but very few. And he also ministered with Paul and was one that appointed Paul as an apostle and maintained him as an apostle. If the apostles did not agree with Paul, they would have removed him from his post. They did not do that. See, that's not a rejection. Again, what gives? Both sides of the argument don't seem to make sense. Why? Well, the final option is, what if Paul is just plain being misread? And to this, another channel created a video condemning a channel that was teaching exactly that. So they shout them down basically in ridicule. We get that all the time. Nothing new, and it is not new, because that is the way it has been since the days of Jared, when the Nephilim opposed Yahuwah's creation. And we're in that same battle. It's never changed, see? But they said in that channel, I think the video is called something like, "Are we too dumb for Paul?" Really? You know, were the early church fathers and the church all along just too dumb for Paul? That's what they're saying. Of course, that's not actually a question, is it? It's just senseless ridicule from likely a frustrated person. Sincere, no doubt. We've watched other videos from this guy and they're very good. But that one is based on a false premise. He's trying to reconcile Paul, and he's frustrated. But it's because he's really not reading it in true context. Can Paul be reconciled, though? Do we throw out all of his words, as some suggest? Or is there redemption by actually just reading what Paul says about Paul? If you know us, we favor that approach over the others any day. So it's time for a test, a true test, not a fragment test of Paul. This has been needed for a long time and a long time coming. And we've never seen anybody do it. Makes us wonder why. Are we really in that false of a strong delusion? We felt it so important that we stopped our Sabbath series on this topic, where we're going to deal with a portion of this here. And we chose to launch this as a new series where we just read and understand Paul in a very methodical way. We're even going to color code Paul for you so it makes perfect sense, and you will get it, you will know by the end of especially even the first video. No fragments, no verse here, no verse there, nope. We're going to read Paul in context. Whole chapters, or at least large parts of chapters, maybe even flowing into the next chapter, because chapter breaks are not always accurate in completeness. Although it's good we have them, we can find things, right? But we need to be mindful of that, that's all. But let's go through his letters and books in detail and see what his context really is. No matter what side you might be on, one thing is for sure. You will learn from this series. Then, let's determine, did Paul really advocate breaking the law, which he kept? Or did he even break it himself? Or in context, does Paul actually make sense? Either Paul does make sense and reconciles friends, or his words should be thrown out. So that side would be accurate if that is true. But we're going to test that. He was never given authority to change Scripture, nor the law. He was to carry out Messiah's doctrines as all apostles did, and we should still be doing today. So if what we're doing doesn't match what Messiah did, you got a problem. And the modern church does not. Paul cannot disagree with Messiah, or there is a problem with Paul. He cannot overturn him either. So which is it? We will now begin to delineate the teachings of Paul in large part in this series, and this will enlighten. Frankly, there is no other way to read Paul once you do this. There's no going back, sorry. We saw a video not long ago saying 50 reasons to never quote Paul again, or something like that if I got it right. Again, a frustrated person for sure, and understandably so. However, let's be clear, no one is dumb, at least not anyone that's trying to learn. We are in a strong delusion, my friends, and much of this came right through the church over the past 2,000 years. It's called Pharisee leaven. It is time to awaken, examine it in the light, and expose the bad for what it is, allowing the leaven to dissipate. Oh wait, till we break down the law of sin and death next. We're going to start with that, and this will blow you away. You have never seen scripture like this, probably, many of you. Wait till we deal with the gospel of grace, because it doesn't start in the New Testament. And salvation, which is not a New Testament concept either in origin. Wow. Can we say that? You'll see. Paul does. Let's see what his words say. These have massive ramifications. And if we are understanding Paul correctly, these will restore Yahuwah's ways in our lives. This is why the church has become lawless, because it is not based on a doctrine of law. It wants to abolish it to instead favor the law of sin and death, which is a different law, we'll prove. Misunderstanding Paul. Some are getting the entire Bible wrong over this. So let's begin. Did Paul say that? Time to test. Thank you for watching our Did Paul Say That series. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the bell. Like us on Facebook at The God Culture, _space original. Share this video with others and check out our website at thegodculture.com. Always remember to prove all things for yourself. We love you all. Yahuwah bless, and Shabbat Shalom, or Sabbath peace, if you are watching this on the Sabbath. Don't know what I mean? Watch our Sabbath series, and you will learn.